The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. President Rodrigo Duterte lists 3 qualities that Filipinos should look for in the next president. In his one-on-one interview with his friend and spiritual advisor, Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. More details in this report.
Compassionate, decisive, and a good judge of people. These are the qualities Filipinos should look for in a president, according to President Duterte in his one-on-one interview with his spiritual advisor, Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, on SMNI last Saturday.
First, the president should be a compassionate one. Para sa tao talaga. Second, he must be, and the third, that he must be a good judge of tao. So magkuha ka, you're able to delegate these powers because you know their character.
Duterte also said he thinks any president should first experience being a mayor. He added the next president should be prepared to handle anything from the issue on the West Philippine Sea to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
Ang maging presidente, dumaan ng mayor, parang lakihan mo lang yung dimension mo, makita mo, and you should be prepared to tackle each and every problem.
Duterte also touted that he has achieved his objective to bring peace in Mindanao, but he added he is wary of the possible chaos the upcoming elections may bring.
I cannot guarantee you that it will be peaceful. There will be 1 or 2 or 3. And even dito sa Mindanao, nabi ko talaga sa kanila, I will not allow terrorism sa election. I will not allow violence.
Still, the president believes that the leadership of new COMELEC chairman Saidamen Pangarungan will help fix any incoming issues.
Kasi Maranao is good. He's a lawyer. At saka marami na itong dinaanan na sa gobyerno. The Moro hatred, dahan-dahang nawala sa kanila. Because ipagbigyan natin sila sa lahat. Anong hiningi nila? As a matter of fact, my last pinakamarami sa administrasyon ko na maraming mga Moro. We have achieved militarily the objectives of keeping the peace in Mindanao.
Meanwhile, Duterte also reiterated that he wants to leave the legacy of a strong military. And to ensure this, he again reiterated that his administration increased the salaries of soldiers and added more to the armed forces budget under the AFP modernization program.
Comparatively sa budget ng previous administration, there's a graph there. I double the budget. I leave the presidency with a strong military.
Sam Terante, we are One News.
In other news, this pandemic has displaced more than 1 million of female workers in the country. According to Philippine Statistics Authority's data, there are already more than 3.2 million workers that have been displaced since the pandemic started. More than 1.4 million of that were women. In response to this, the Labor Department conducts programs to empower and integrate displaced female workers to the workforce. Issues like maternity leaves were also raised to the department.
Usually po, ang mga natatanggap po na mga issue ay patungkol po sa expanded maternity leave, ang pag-avail po nito.
TikTok has exploded during the pandemic, but now it's also being used by young people amid the conflict in Ukraine, from sharing their experiences on the ground to others using the platform as a means of spreading Russian propaganda. More in this Bloomberg video.
What do you make of how TikTok is being used here for better and for worse? For sure. And I think when you think about TikTok, this is how billions of people all over the world are receiving news for the first time about the war, especially Gen Z. On the positive side, right, it can be used for good. Even just yesterday, the White House brought 30 top TikTokers together to just arm them with the right information about what is happening, how the U.S. is thinking about politics, and what they should be talking about on their platforms. And on the flip side, there's obviously misinformation being spread on the platform. And I think TikTok is doing the best they can to mitigate that in many ways, such as, I think users in Russia, for example, today, they can't live stream, they can't post on TikTok. So there's no one right way to do it, but I do think making sure that you're arming TikTok creators with the right information is a great start.
So look, the concern is that TikTok serves a younger generation, and is a younger generation of users around the world going to have the wrong idea of what's really going on in this war?
I think it's helpful, actually, I think, to see it from the perspective of younger users. Like, there are Gen Z citizens on the ground speaking to what's happening in the war. So even if you're reading news for the first time in articles and such, you can actually see the experiences from young people that are documenting it in their own way. It can be Gen Z dark humor. It can be actually the perspective of soldiers. That is something that's hard to fully discount when you're seeing it through the perspective of people who are your own age. And so I think from that perspective, it's actually kind of helpful to see kind of and feel it in real time from people who are experiencing it on the ground, that they look like you. Maybe just a week ago they were in school, and now they're hiding in bomb shelters and cooking meals for the first time. It makes it feel much more real, I think, to see it from the vantage point of your peers.
Those testimonials from Ukraine on TikTok have been incredibly powerful. What are you telling your portfolio companies right now about the environment, all of this global economic uncertainty, no one knowing how this or if this war will end?
Sure, and I think early stage companies are largely they're protected from this in many ways. Given Larry Hippo, we're an early stage venture firm, and so many of our companies are seed Series A stage, and so it's not as pressing, I would say, for early stage companies especially. But of course, events like this are always impacting the public markets. But given we're long-term oriented investors, I think with any early stage company, focus is very important, and keeping focused on sort of what your core objectives are as a founder. And so we try to guide them towards that as much as possible.
As you look into the future, you're looking to back the next big thing. Do you see an opportunity for the next TikTok, for a platform that is perhaps more equitable and better at managing some of these complex issues?
I think I'm a big believer in the democratization of tools in general, right? Like, we're talking a lot about backing, companies that are building tools for creators, people who are, making conversation in many ways and building brands and building influence, right? Like, the next generation of brands, they're all content creators, and many of them are Gen Z. And so I think, next gen social platforms, companies that are building in Web3, for example, and thinking about empowered ownership and incentivization for users is really important. So I think on that front, certainly looking at next gen social platforms, but especially I would say in the context of Web3 and how Gen Zers in particular can be owning and monetizing their content versus farming it out to Web2 platforms, or like TikTok, like Facebook, like Instagram, for example.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Disheartened and disappointed, one of the world's top pole vaulters, EJ Obiena, revealed that despite agreeing to a mediation process, Patafa still denied him the endorsement needed for his supposed stint at the largest stage for men's pole vaulting. Marty Bautista with a report.
The country won't be seeing its flag in the biggest stage for men's pole vaulting, at least for now. Pinoy pride and Asia's #1 pole vaulter EJ Obiena will not make it to the World Indoor Championships in Belgrade, scheduled for March 18, due to Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association or PATAFA's non-endorsement.
It's hard because as an athlete, I think everybody would agree with me that, qualifying for some competitions is hard enough. I've been there, worked hard, missed the qualification. It's painful. It's all that work, you feel like, all that work is for nothing. I never know if that will be the meet that I'm going to jump high, if that's going to be the gun. That's up in the air, and not for the reasons that I believe is fair. Not for me, for the country. It's a shame, at least in my opinion.
Obiena revealed that despite agreeing to the mediation process, his request to participate in upcoming competitions was denied by PATAFA.
I wrote them an intent letter, just to show that, my interest to represent the country, on behalf of that, to represent them as well, PATAFA. Sadly, the reply I got was not much of a friendly response. Let's just put it at that. I don't understand it.
The Tondo-born athlete currently cleared the height of 5.91 meters in the 2022 Perche Elite Tour at Rouen, France, and stands in the top 5 ranking for men's pole vault. PATAFA did not only refuse to endorse his name for the World Indoor Championships, but also for the upcoming 31st Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam. Through the assistance of the Philippine Olympic Committee, Obiena had recently been allowed to compete for the SEA Games, the only positive news coming from the situation. Obiena refused to disclose details regarding the ongoing mediation process between him and PATAFA, but he hopes that the issues can soon be resolved so he can play under the flag once again. For News 5, Marty Bautista. We are One News.
Miss Universe Philippines candidates bear it all in this year's Headshot Challenge. The 50 candidates go makeup-free in the 2022 Miss Universe Philippines Headshot Challenge. Now, the organization urges fans to vote for their bets through the MUPH app until 12 noon today. Winners will be based on the total votes of fans and judges. Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. Following a series of oil price hikes, the government is set to release fuel subsidy for affected PUV drivers and operators this week. The tandem of Calyodi de Guzman and Walden Bello continues the Mindanao leg of their campaign today, while the Bongbong Marcos-Sara Duterte duo is scheduled to campaign in Muntinlupa and Las Piñas. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno will be visiting Masbate, while Senator Manny Pacquiao, on the other hand, is expected to make his rounds in Quezon Province. And Olympic pole vaulter EJ Obiena is missing this year's World Indoors Championship after he was not endorsed by the PATAFA. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 1:30 in the afternoon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.